I know what you're thinking, Nick, it is way too early to talk about Garchomp from Paradox Rift, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't really care. Hey, Nick from 9Card TCG, and today we're gonna be looking at Garchomp EX from the upcoming set Paradox Rift. I really like the card. If you played Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the video game, you know that there's a wandering Garchomp that has, just a wild Garchomp, and it has a water Terra type, and now that's making its way into the trading card game, which I think is really cool. I also really like Garchomp. It was a big part of my Regulation C team, because yes, I do play competitive VGC as well. It's a really cool card, and I have some ideas that I want to talk about. Yes, the list is going to change as more cards from Paradox Rift are revealed. Is this the deck I'm going to play eventually when Urshifu rotates? I don't know. We'll just have to see what else comes out. But for now, we're going to take a look at some early ideas. Links to Pokegear and Justin Basil, where I am posting these deck profiles and getting the proxies from, both in the video description, so please go check them out. They're fantastic sites. With all that said, let's take a look at these two deck profiles for Garchomp EX. The first one, well, I guess before anything, we have to talk about Garchomp EX and what it does. 320 health, stage 2 water type Pokemon. Now, that water typing is very important. It has a free retreat cost that is weak to lightning. There's not a ton of lightning. I guess Tyranitar, if it becomes really popular, could be a problem. Miraidon, if it becomes really popular, can be a problem. But those are really the only two lightning type Pokemon that are around. There is a Mewtwo EX that's a lightning type coming in the set as well, but whatever, that's not what we care about. Hydrolander for a single fighting energy. One fighting energy does 160 damage, and we can attach up to three basic fighting energies from our discard to our bench Pokemon in any way we want. That's a really, really good attack. That means for one fighting energy, we are just attacking, hitting 160, and then the next turn, we're probably not going to get KO'd on one hit. We just hit for another 160, and there you go. We're perfectly okay. We just two-shot everything. Also, we're starting to power up other Pokemon. So we can power up 3 other Garchomps on the field, or we can power up some other Pokemon, and that's exactly what we're going to do. But before we do talk about the other Pokemon, Sonic Dive for 2 colorless energies. Discard 2 energy from this Pokemon, which does feed into Hydrolander. If you do, this attack does 120 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. That means we have a Pokemon VSTAR or a Stage 1 EX that we're attacking. They have 280 health or less. We hit them with Hydrolander. We do 160. They run to the bench. They use Switch, Escape Rope, they retreat, whatever it is. They run to the bench. Now we can go ahead, Sonic Dive, hit them for 120 and still get our 2 prizes. There's a Cramorant or a Sableye that we don't want on the field anymore. We could go ahead and Sonic Dive and take them out before they get to do the things they want to do. There's, Pokemon we want to start putting pressure onto. We want to start putting chip damage onto something. We can go ahead and do that with Sonic Dive, so that when it comes into the active, it's a little bit easier to KO in the future turns, and it might make your opponent less likely to promote it because it's already damaged and they know it's going to get KO'd right away. So really cool Pokemon. It does have the Terra trait that as long as it's on the bench, it doesn't take attacks or damage from attacks. So you can't Sonic Dive an opposing Garchomp EX. It is worth noting the Terra type Pokemon don't take bench damage, so Sonic Dive will not work on like a Charizard EX because it is a Terra Pokemon, or at least the Obsidian Flames one. It won't work on Garchomp EX and all that kind of stuff. So Terra Pokemon, you'll know which ones they are. They'll have this box underneath the name. Can't use Sonic Dive. Now, what are we pairing this with? Obviously, we need the Gabite and the Gibble. Okay, I mean, 20 damage for a single fighting energy on a basic one-price Pokemon. Not terrible, by the way. That math does make a difference at times. And if you don't believe me, I use Larvitar to KO a Glimmora EX against Magikarp, so you can go check out that video. We have 2 copies of Arceus V and V-Star. Why are we running Arceus V and V-Star? We're using it for the ability Starburst, right? We just search a deck for any 2 cards we want, put them into our hand. It's incredible consistency. Now, we can't use Trinity Charge or Trinity Nova to power up our Garchomps or anything like that. Could we use it to power up our Lumineon? Sure, but we're not attacking with the Lumineon. We could, if we wanted to, because we have Arceus, we could add, instead of just basic fighting energies, we could add some water energies in there, or other types of energies that, There is a Garchomp V. We can throw a couple water energies in here. The Garchomp V deals 220 to opponent's bench Pokemon, so that's kind of cool. But really, the other Pokemon that we're attacking with is Lucario from Brilliant Stars. Roaring Resolve once during your turn. Put 2 damage counters on this Pokemon. If you do, search your deck for a fighting energy and attach it to this Pokemon. So, what we do is we build up a Lucario. Aura's Field Valley does 10 damage plus we have to discard all fighting energies attached to this Pokemon, and it does 60 more damage for each fighting energy we discard in this way. So what we do is we use Roaring Resolve, put a fighting energy onto it. Now we attach a fighting energy from hand, we're doing 130. But oh wait, when we discard those fighting energies, or we discard them with Ultra Ball, whatever manner of getting those fighting energies into the discard, now Hydrolander, we go ahead, take 3 fighting energies from our discard and attach them to our benched Lucario. So now we got 3 energies on the Lucario. So we're already hitting, what, 6, 12, 190. And then we use Roaring Resolve for another 60. We're hitting 250. And we attach for turn, we're hitting another 60. We're doing 310. I'm pretty sure my math works out. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not a mathematician. But I'm pretty sure that math works out. So we can very easily, with a single prize Pokemon, hit really hard. And don't forget, Hydrolander does 160 damage itself, so you don't have to put all 3 energies from Hydrolander onto a single Lucario. You don't have to put all your eggs in one basket. You could put them on a second Lucario. You could put them onto an Arceus that you can attack with, because you can use Arceus as an attacker in this deck like that. Like I said, we can get a couple of water energies in here, so we can attack with the Radiant Greninja, we can attack with the Lumineon to get it out of the field, deny those 2 prizes. Lumineon V, by the way, when you play this card from your hand to your bench, search your deck for any supporter card you want, put it into your hand. It's really useful, so we can go ahead and find things like Irida. Search your deck for a water Pokemon, like Garchomp EX, Manaphy, Greninja, and then we also get an item card. So we can go ahead and search our deck for a water Pokemon, and an item card, and now out of nowhere, we got a Garchomp EX in play, attach a single fighting energy, and we're off to the races. Ultra Ball, Nest Ball are our means of finding. We can find Pokemon like that. We also have Battle VIP Pass, another great target off of an Irida if it's your first turn going second. We do have them, so that in case we draw into them, right? It's very possible we can use Radiant Greninja's ability, discard an energy card from our hand to draw 2 cards. We can do that once per turn. We find a Battle VIP Pass. Get out of there. We find a Battle VIP Pass, search your deck for 2 basic Pokemon, put them directly onto your bench. So that's pretty cool. We can go ahead and get a couple of Gibles or a couple of Riolus. We do have a Manaphy because Gible, Riolu, they are pretty susceptible to a Moonlight Shuriken, so that's kind of problematic. But we have 4 rare candies. We have some super odds to recover our Riolu, Lucarios, and some fighting energies back into the deck so that we can use Roaring Resolve and ensure we're getting an attack off. We have Raihan, which is a phenomenal card. Since we are attacking with some single prize Pokemon pretty frequently, Raihan says that we can only play this if one of our Pokemon was knocked out during our opponent's last turn. But if we can play this card, we take a basic energy from our discard and attach it to one of our Pokemon, and then search our deck for any card we want, which is incredible. So we can go ahead and attach an energy from our discard to a Garchomp and then a Hydrolander. Or search a deck for any card we want. So like if we have a Gible in play and we have a Garchomp in hand but we don't have the rare candy, well, if a Lucario or something was knocked out the previous turn, we attach an energy to the Gible. Now we use the Raihan, that's how we get the energy. Then we search our deck for a rare candy, and now we evolve into the Garchomp. We have the energy, now we get attached to a benched Lucario or something. We get attached to an Arceus in play, and we get attached to another Gible, and Hydrolander, hit 160, start accelerating some energies. Really, really cool. And I think this is a wonderful supporter for a deck like this. Poppy, brand new at Obsidian Flames, move up to 2 energies from one of your Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon, which means if we use Arceus at the very beginning of the game, we hit with Trinity Charge, we self-accelerate, which probably won't do since we only have basic fighting energies, but we Hydrolander onto some Pokemon, maybe we only have Arceus in play. Eventually, later, we get a Lucario, and we want to attack with Lucario because it can do big damage, and it's also 1 prize. Well, we can go ahead, get the Lucario, attach an energy, Roaring Resolve, now we have 2. Then we play Poppy to move 2 energies from one of our other Pokemon, like Arceus, to the Lucario. Now we have 4 on there, which means we're hitting for 250 damage, which is way more than 200 with the Trinity Nova. So that's really cool. It's a really nice way of just being able to get energies into play or onto Lucario very, very easily. I think it's pretty cool, especially because if we have 2 Lucarios in play, we can like Roaring Resolve to one, Roaring Resolve to the other, attach for turn, and then move an energy over from one Lucario to the other, and now it has 3, and now we're hitting for a little bit harder. We're hitting 190. It's pretty cool, but then we got 3 energies in the discard for the Hydrolander, and you see how this all combos together and cycles together. It's really, really cool. We got a couple of copies of Iono. Each player shuffles their hand, puts it to the bottom of the deck, and then you draw cards equal to the number of prizes you have remaining. It's great setup in the beginning. It's great disruption at the end when your opponent only has a couple of prizes. We do have 3 copies of Colress's Experiment. We'll get the top 5 cards of your deck. 3 go into your hand, 2 go into the Lost Zone. This is a wonderful card if we have a Garchomp and we need to try to find a rare candy or vice versa, and we don't want to discard our hand with Professor's Research, or we don't want to shuffle it and put it to the bottom of the deck with something like Iono. Obviously we have Irida for those situations, but there are times where you don't have an Irida, or maybe you need 2 cards to make a combo happen, or you're looking for something that you can't search for with Irida, whatever the case may be. Colress, wonderful, wonderful card for things like that. I do really like Boss's Orders. We can go ahead, switch one of our opponent's bench Pokemon with the active. This is wonderful because maybe there's something we want to attack into with the Lucario, with the Hydrolander. We talked about some reasons why we want to do that. Opponent's Pokemon runs to the bench with damage counters on them. We want to finish them off. They have Manaphy in play, so we can't use the Sonic Dive. So we can play Boss's Orders, pull it into the active. That's a Pokemon we want to get a head start on putting damage. Maybe it has a lot of HP, and we need to put some chunk damage or chip damage into it. We can go ahead and do that. Whatever the thing is. Artisan, during each player's turn, you may search your deck for a basic non-rule box Pokemon and put it directly from your deck onto the bench. This is just a good way of setting up Riolus. It's a good way of finding a Manaphy or Gibbles, things like that. You cannot find Arceus V, Lumineon V, or Radiant Greninja with Artisan. Those are all rule box Pokemon. Even though they're basics, they're rule box, so you can't get them. And then we have a Path to the Peak. I know we have some abilities here between the Lumineon, the Greninja, the Starbirth, but after that, once we use Lumineon, it's kind of in play. Once we use Starbirth, it's a once per game ability. We really don't have that many abilities to utilize. Maybe we don't care about Radiant Greninja. Maybe drawing 2 cards isn't as useful as turning off our opponent's ability. The Radiant Charizard, Charizard EX, opposing Arceus, opposing Pidgeot, something like that. I would say, if you are going to add a Pidgeot EX, I have 3 cards here that could very well go into this deck. I added a couple of cards. We have the Pidgeot. If we are going to use the Pidgeot, which is an incredible card, once your turn, set your deck for any card you want and put it in your hand. This is incredible. We can also attack with Blustery Wind because it's double colorless, and we can power that up with Garchomp if we needed to. We have Cancel and Clone in here until the end of your opponent. Until the end of your turn, your opponent's active Pokemon has no abilities. So we can go ahead and boss up a Manaphy that says prevent all damage to your bench Pokemon done by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. So when Manaphy is in play, we can't Sonic Dive to something, but maybe we want to, right? Maybe we really want to. So we say, okay, I'm going to boss up that Manaphy, and then I'm going to play Cancel and Clone, and I can use the Pidgeot to find the boss or the Cancel and Clone, and now boss up that Manaphy. I don't want to knock out the Manaphy. I want to Sonic Dive something on the bench while Manaphy's ability isn't active. This is also where the Garchomp V comes into play. Sonic Strike, discard 3 energy from this Pokemon. This attack does 220 to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So if we want to hit a Pokemon V, like a Lumineon, like a Squawkabilly, my opponent benches an Arceus V. For some reason, they make a mistake. Whatever, we got the Garchomp V. It does require a Water, 2 Fighting, and a Colress. So if we're going to play this Garchomp V, we get a couple of waters in there. This is fine because, again, it allows us to power up and attack with Lumineon through something like Trinity Nova or Trinity Charge. We can attach 2 fighting energies to the Lumineon with Garchomp's Hydrolander and then attach from hand a water energy, or Raihan, a water energy onto the Lumineon. It allows us to attack. We can use Hydrolander to put a fighting energy on the Greninja so that we can Raihan attach for turn, 2 waters, and then now we're attacking with something like the Radiant Greninja. Again, Manaphy is kind of a problem, so that's where the Cancel and Clone comes into play. You can see how useful all the cards in this deck are, and I do really like it, but we have another deck to take a look at. Everything from the pitching on is just like things to consider, right? But we have another deck to take a look at, and we'll do that. This is a super cool deck. It uses the Garchomp still, right? We talked about all the Garchomp stuff, so we're not going to do that. It uses it with Rapid Strike Urshifu Vmax, because Gmax Rapid Flow for 2 fighting and a colorless, discard all energy attached to this Pokemon, and you do 120 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. You choose the 2. If, again, Manaphy can be kind of a problem with this, so we still have Cancel and Clone as something that you might want to consider. We have our cross switchers, which is really cool. You have to play 2 cross switchers at a time in order to use the effect of cross switcher. But if you do, you switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active, and then you take a Pokemon from your bench and put it into your active spot, which is really nice. The reason why we want to do something like that is because Rapid Strike Urshifu Vmax has a second attack, Gale Thrust, for a single fighting energy. It does 30. But if it moves from the bench to the active during this turn, now it does an extra 120. It is worth noting that if you have Rapid Strike Urshifu V on the bench, move it into the active, and then evolve into the Vmax, Gale Thrust will only do it'll only do 30 damage. It will not do 150. It has to be the Vmax that moves from the bench to the active, not the V. We do have Octillery with the Rapid Strike Search. Once during your turn, search your deck for any Rapid Strike card you want and put it into your hand. You cannot use more than 1 Rapid Strike Search each turn. So that allows us to search for a Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. It allows us to search for Rapid Strike Energy, which provides 2 energies at a time, by the way, both fighting, both water, or a fighting and a water. If you're using it in a deck like this, it's really just going to be the fighting. You're probably never going to be attacking with the Octillery, though you could, I guess. And it only does that if you attach it to a Rapid Strike Pokemon. You can't attach this to any other type of Pokemon, so keep that in mind. The same thing, Pokemon Search, Nest Ball, we got Ultra Ball, we got Rare Candies, a lot of the same supporters, Raihan, Irida, Boss, Iono, Colress, Artisan. Then we have a bunch of fighting energies. Some of the cards we already looked at, Radiant Greninja. But we got some new additions. One, Cheryl. Cheryl just heals all damage from your evolution Pokemon, but you have to discard all energy attached to them. However, Gmax Rapid Flow on the Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX makes you discard all energies anyway. So what we do is we use Gmax Rapid Flow to deal 120 damage to 2 of our opponent's benched Pokemon, or 2 Pokemon in general. They hit into us, we have a massive 330, so it's pretty hard to KO. Then we Cheryl that damage away, and then we use something like the Octillery to find us a Tower of Waters, which says the retreat cost of Rapid Strike Pokemon are 2 less. Rapid Strike Urshifu has a retreat cost of 2, so we get to now retreat it for free, send up the Garchomp, attach 1 fighting energy, use Hydro Lander to hit for 160, and those 3 energies we just discarded with Gmax Rapid Flow go right back to the Urshifu VMAX that now has full health. It's a wonderful loop and cycle. I think it's super, super cool. You could probably get a Pal Pad in here to reuse Cheryl. I think that's really cool. We also have a new supporter coming in Pokemon 151, Erica's Invitation, that doesn't want to show here, but what it says is your opponent reveals their hand, which is good knowledge to have. Put a basic Pokemon you find there onto their bench, and then switch that Pokemon with the active, which means if they have a Lumineon that they're afraid to put down because they don't want you to KO it with Gmax Rapid Flow, Sonic Dive, you get to go ahead, put it straight down onto the bench. It also means that our opponent can't use the abilities of their basic Pokemon like Lumineon V because it has to be during their turn. So if we put it onto the bench for them during their turn, they lose the ability. If they're playing a Charizard deck and they say, oh, I don't want to put this Arceus V down in my hand because Rapid Strike Urshifu's Gale Thrust will just KO it. Now we play Erica's Invitation, we look at the hand, Arceus V goes to the bench, and then it goes into the active. Now we go ahead, we just promote this Urshifu VMAX from the bench, and now Gale Thrust does 300 because the Arceus is weak to fighting, so we get to go ahead and just take one-shots on things like Arceus or anything that's fighting weak, as long as it's a basic Pokemon. It's a really cool card for a deck like this. Because we have Erica's Invitation, we only have one copy of Boss's Orders. We have an Energy Search just to guarantee we find a fighting energy to attach for Gale Thrust or Garchomp or something like that. We have Echoing Horn. We play Erica's Invitation, get that Arceus, just as a pure hypothetical. We get that Arceus from our opponent's hand onto the bench, and then we knock it out with Gale Thrust. That's 2 prizes. Now we go ahead and say, Echoing Horn, which we can search for with Rapid Strike Search and the Octillery, bring a basic Pokemon from our opponent's discard back onto their bench. And then we can go ahead and say, okay, well, now I'm going to boss it up, and I'm going to hit it again with Gale Thrust. Or I'm going to Gmax Rapid Flow to the active and something else and take, 2, 4 prizes. Really cool combo. Some of the other things we have in here, we talked about Artisan. Forest Seal Stone is just a really nice way of being able to search a deck for any card we want. It's a V-Star power. We can only use 1 Forest Seal Stone ability per game, but sometimes that's all you need, especially in combination with something like Rapid Strike Search. It's a good way of being able to find anything you want. So we like Irida for a rare candy and a water Pokemon. Well, this is a water Pokemon. This is a water Pokemon. Now we have extra search options, and then we attach a Forest Seal Stone to like a benched Urshifu V, and now we can find an extra combo piece. We're just searching our deck for like 4 cards, and we can really make things happen very, very easily doing that. Some of the other cards in Radiant Greninja, discard energy, draw 2. It's cool, like I said, it combos with the Garchomp EX. It's just a little bit of added consistency. We have the Flying Entry Hawlucha. When you play this card from your hand to your bench, you put 1 damage counter on 2 of your opponent's benched Pokemon. This is just an extra way of ensuring that you're going to get a KO on something that maybe you wouldn't have previously. We have Arven to go ahead and search a deck for an item and a tool card. So we can go ahead and search a deck for an item like a rare candy and a tool card like Forest Seal Stone, so that we can attach to the V and then search for a Garchomp EX. So now we get the rare candy and a Forest Seal Stone. Use the Forest Seal Stone to get the Garchomp. It's like a convoluted way, instead of using Irida, maybe we don't have one. Whatever the case may be, or maybe we got to use Forest Seal Stone to get something else. Maybe we have to use it to get the Octillery because we don't have an Ultra Ball. We only have a Nest Ball. When we have Ultra Ball, we can use Forest Seal Stone to get an Octillery, then use Octillery to go ahead and get an Urshifu. Or we use Octillery to get the Urshifu, and then we could use Forest Seal Stone to get a Rapid Strike energy. You kind of just see the combo of things that we can do. A lot of search, a lot of options. There is also this TM Turbo Energize, which is a new tool coming to us in what's it called, Paradox Rift. You attach 1 energy and search a deck for 2 basic energies attached into your bench Pokemon in any way you like. It's just, again, a way to ensure you start with something maybe you don't want to. You have a Remoraid, okay, fine, I'll attach the TM, attach a water energy, or fighting energy, and now I'll use Turbo Energize to start powering up an Urshifu V, or start powering up a Gibble or something, or 2 Gibbles, whatever it is I have. It's just a way to make a poor start Pokemon not as useless. And then if your opponent doesn't attack and KO it, then you have the fighting energy to just discard, retreat, and now you already have Pokemon with energies on it thanks to Turbo Energize, and you can start. It's a little bit easier to come back from a really bad start or a slightly worse start, something like that. But that's this deck. I think it's super cool. Cancel and Clones in here as well. Again, everything after the fighting energies, this is all things to consider, things that you might want in a deck depending on what the meta looks like and how you want to play this deck personally. So they have 2 very cool Garchomp EX decks that feature different fighting type Pokemon, because Garchomp uses fighting Pokemon or fighting energies. I think they are really, really cool, but I want to know your thoughts on these decks. So tell me in the comments below which one you like better. Do you like Garchomp at all? Is there something from Paradox Rift that you're more excited for? I want to hear from you, but that's going to do it for us today. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, found this informative. If you did, like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff tells YouTube this is a good channel and other people should watch it. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. I want to give a special shout out to the YouTube members Black Wins, Mike the Highest, Fernando Ortiz, Chin Pokemon, and Eric N. Thank you all so much for your support. It really means a lot to me. And if you want to become a channel member, you can go ahead and click the channel member button somewhere at the bottom of the page. I'm not really sure. I haven't done it myself.